And a very good evening to one and all. This is not Live Irish Myths, but it's been Christmas, so our schedules have been, shall we say, not upset. That's not a good word. Our schedules have been somewhat topsy turvy with everything. I hope you all had a great Christmas. You're all very welcome to the library this evening, where we are going to look back a little bit on 2022 and maybe look a little bit forward also to 2023. Hope everybody is nicely full. Not with drink, mind you. I hope Santa was good. Hope he left plenty of presents under the Christmas tree for you all. Hope you got exactly what you wanted. Most of all, I hope that you're all keeping safe and well, and that you have love and companionship in your life. A very good evening to Wayne Bird, who says this is a surprise, which it is, because I didn't advertise it and I just realized I hadn't done a live stream on Monday, so we might as well try and see out the year, as it were, because I know I won't be able to do that on Christmas Eve because of the traditional family celebrations here. Michael Trott is in New Zealand, where it is already Friday morning. I've been losing track of the days. They call this Happy Twixmas, the in-between days between Christmas and New Year, when we're all full of chocolate and cheese and stuffing, and we don't know what day of the week it is. Well, maybe not everybody's in that situation. I've been back to work since yesterday. A very good evening to Chuck Wyatt, who is November Echo 1 Charlie Whiskey. Nice suffix, by the way. You must be fond of the old Morse. Hey, hang on. Have to show. Chuck has to see this. The rest of you are going to be falling asleep about this. Look what I got off Santa Claus. Mm-hmm. Hello. Saskia. Saskia, you got stuff off Santa Claus. What are you complaining about? This lovely iambic Morse paddle. There you go. So, Chuck, HNYOM. And I see you're a friend of EI2HI, Hugh, in the county of Cork. What a lovely man Hugh is. Braxton May says reflection is such a powerful tool. Agree 100%. Chungus Khan is in the house, says, good evening, Anthony. A very good evening to you. Kathy May Day-O, good afternoon. Are you working, Kathy May, or are you on a day off? Very good of you to join us. Auntie Joe says it's a nice surprise. Hello all. Joe, were you one of the ones who was suffering from, well, I don't know whether you see it as suffering or not. Were you one of the ones that had heavy snowfall? I know several of the Tua had extremely heavy snowfall during the past week. Damien Mullen is saying hello from Ballygowan in the county of Down. Hello, Damien. Good evening to you. It's cold here in the Boyne Valley, and it was a bit sort of frosty even, or looking like it was going to, but there's rain on the way. Michelle Woodburn says good afternoon. A very good afternoon to you, Michelle. Desiree Riley, hello. What a surprise. Hello to all the Tua. Hope you had a great Christmas, Desiree. Grace Walker is in the house. Good evening, Grace. Blessings to all. Many happy returns. Kamani GE. We have 7 inches of snow. Oh. Wow. When it snows in Ireland, we get about a half inch. Where are our numerologists, says Michelle. 2022 was a 6, 2023 is a 7 year. Interesting. Paul, the Royal Hill of Tara Ranger, is finally rejoining us. Was down along the River Boyne here, Navan, a few hours ago. I wonder, were you down there for several months? Were you out of range of the Wi-Fi? You're very welcome back to the live stream. Brendan Byrne is wishing us a happy Christmas and best wishes for the new year. Many happy returns, Brendan. Amadeus is loving the snow, says Desiree. Wow. I'm sure Saskia would too, because she's kind of, well, she's a Siberian husky who's never been in Siberia, so maybe totally weird for her. But hello and good evening to Sandra Boothroyd. You're very welcome. Paul Campbell is saying best wishes from Galway City on the Atlantic west coast of Ireland. Good evening to you, Paul. You're very welcome to the stream. Martina Guest says Merry Christmas to you all. Many happy returns, Martina, and Happy New Year. Apple 369 is in Vancouver in British Columbia, where it is only just past midday. A very good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining us. Erica Bow is in the house. Hello, Erica. Conasata too. So the purpose of tonight's live stream was just to kind of just, catch up with you all, see how Christmas went, talk about a few things, reflect on 2022, as I said, maybe look forward a little bit to 2023 with the way things have been happening over the last number of years. It's not always a good thing to be pin your hopes on the future. It's kind of better to live in the present, isn't it? Yeah. I saw a meme on social media over the Christmas about it's better to live in the present, and I think it was a cat, and the cat sat into one of the present boxes under the Christmas tree and said, "Yep, that's much better." Grace Walker is saying hello from New York. Very good afternoon to you, and I hope it's not too cold in New York. Somebody's saying hello there, and as usual, it doesn't show me who it is. So give me one moment, and I'll tell you who that is. That is our own Anya Ryan. Anya, you're very welcome. Happy Christmas. Well, happy belated Christmas. Happy New Year. Hope it's a good one. John Main is saying hello from a wet and windy San Francisco. John, it sounds like you brought the Belmullet weather to San Francisco with you, or maybe it's just like that all the time. We finally got heat, says Grace. And Mick Kingston says hi. I wonder where you are, Mick. A very good evening from the Boyne Valley. Hope all is well with you. Yeah, so where do you start? Okay. Where do you start? Well, where do you start? You could start in January, I suppose. What a year it's been. It's been an interesting year. January, actually, Kathy Maydale says we had snow last week, then an ice storm, then a windstorm. Been crazy weather. Calm and quiet now here in Newcastle, Washington, Pacific Northwest. Well, I hope it stays like that, and that you don't have any more of that cold stuff. I hope for some decent sales in 2023, says Tinkle Tink. A good hope, yes. Just before Christmas, Northern California was rattled by a 6.4 quake. Wow. Hope everybody's okay. Mick Kingston is in Dublin, the Blackpool, Ballyaclia, the Ford of the Hurdles. So in January of 2022, even though it might to some of you seem like quite a distant memory at this stage, at the beginning of the year, we were still in a state of COVID lockdown. Now, it wasn't as strict as some of the lockdowns of 2022, but nevertheless, it seemed to be dragging on. And then in January, the government got together and said, there's no reason for keeping all this, and lifted almost all of the restrictions, which began to enable life to get back to some sort of normality. One of the upshots of that was that I was able to, for instance, this year to do several talks in public, including a summer solstice talk in Drogheda Library. I gave a talk at the Fire Festival at Ishnock, which was attended by thousands. And it really felt good to be back at things. I was also able to renew my tours, private and public, although the public tours was a new innovation this year, which we'll talk about a little bit. Pardon me while I take a sip of water. There's a particle of food from my dinner still in my mouth. How embarrassing. Yeah, so as I say, some sense of normality began to return, which was brilliant, to be honest. January, I actually remember January, myself and Tom King was started. I was out at his forge in January on those short winter days, but when you knew that the sun had turned and the brighter days were coming, and we took loads of photos that day and began plotting our conversation together, which ended up being a video. It was supposed to be a live stream originally. Hello, Saskia. Hello there. You want to say hello, do you? Yeah. Oh, she shakes her head as if to say no. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then started selling Tom's wares through the website. Give him a bit of support, and as somebody in the Boyne Valley who was creating artworks that were based on Irish monuments and myths, etc., etc. Spike Willow is in the house. Solstice blessings. Hello, Spike. And do remember, indeed, good point. It is still the solstice season. The sun shines into Newgrange until January the 8th. 18 days before and after solstice. Incredible stuff. Longer than we would have thought. Grania Vale says, blessings from screen. Brilliant stuff, Grania. Up near the tower, I hope. Up near O'Connell's pub, with a view across to that wonderful hill of Tara. Anyway, let's quickly I'll be probably sharing a load of links as well during this live stream. So there's the link to the page on the website with Tom's creations on it. And the Triskel pendant, I'm lucky enough to own several of Tom's works, but the Triskel pendant is the one that I wear all the time. The tri-spiral being the famous symbol of Newgrange. The only place you find that symbol in megalithic art, pardon me, in Ireland, is at Newgrange. And we will talk about Newgrange and the solstice. St. Patrick's Day, for the first time since 2019, we had a St. Patrick's Day parade in Drogheda, which was fabulous. It was a major event, huge crowds. Dee McKiernan says, solstice blessings from County Roscommon. A very good evening to you, Dee. You're very welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library and to the live stream. Is the 18 days significant, says Tinkle Tink? That's a question. 3672. People will make up whether it is or not. However, the results of the study carried out by Frank Prendergast and Claire Tuffy and others haven't been published in a paper yet. They had a preliminary article discussing some of the findings in Archaeology Ireland during the past year. So we don't know enough yet, but it will be interesting, you know. Irish Technical Thinker says, I watched the programme on Channel 5 about Newgrange and you were in it. I cheered like Ireland won the World Cup, presented by that actor who I forget his name at the moment. Adrian Dunbar, also known as Superintendent Ted Hastings. To the letter of the law. Yes, indeed. Great day filming with him. Desiree says Amadeus is very curious about Saskia. Guess he could hear her collar jingling about and is currently looking for her. She's back on her chair. You see, we moved her in here over the Christmas to make room in the living room for Santa and all that. And so she's sitting here beside me. She'll be mostly quiet. She's generally a very, very quiet and placid dog, unlike Mr. Coda. Yes, Marcus, we certainly had a lovely Christmas. We were lucky. There's a huge amount of COVID and flu and other viruses here in Ireland at the moment. Huge amount. One relative with young children in his house tested positive for COVID on Christmas Eve. And a few sick people in that house, and I've heard of plenty of other stories, so we count ourselves lucky that we were able to have a nice Christmas. Tom King is in the house. Speak of the Tua, speak of the Ongoa, and he arrives. Good evening, Anthony and the mighty Tua. Season's greetings to one and all from the Forge of the Smooth Road. Hope everyone is safe and well. All doing all right, Tom. I hope you're okay, since we saw you at Newgrange a few times, which was great fun. Especially when you were watching the live stream and I streamed you watching the live stream. Liam Smith says, hi, Anthony and crew. Hope you had a nice break. Let the light return. Absolutely, Liam. And hope also for you. Archaeastronomy Database Ty says, if the sun can shine in for 18 days now, it would have been 23 days in the Neolithic, which is significant, I think. And I look forward to reading more about your interpretation of that. I have a video all about it, says Archaeastronomy Database. Please feel free to share the link and I will reshare it. Michelle says, we have forgotten that this is virus season. Yes, absolutely. Now that we're all out and about, as they say. Now, I'm trying to think. Well, Ishnock, which I mentioned already. I spent the day up there in the company of Mr. King. What a wonderful event. And it had rained the previous day, but thankfully it was nice and bright and dry on the day of the festival. Lovely fire, lovely displays, and a brilliant event. Looking forward to going back again at Bealtaine, and although that may seem a distance away because we're still in December, oh my god, the time is flying. Tempus fugit. Paula Bernard Daffyd says, wasn't sure, did you get access to Newgrange on winter solstice, and is it closed to the public? I get all the time. Thanks, Anthony. There was a lot of questions about Newgrange and how I was inside. The simple thing is, on the solstice days, when the lottery winners go in, if you form anybody who's at the site, if you form a queue, you can go in immediately after the solstice winners come out. So there's no light in the chamber, but there's still sunlight in the passage if the sun is shining. This year we had 2 sunrises out of 5, 3 cloudy. Monday was a completely overcast, dreadful day for Newgrange. Tuesday was the best sunrise I have seen in years, probably since 2016. A beautiful clear sunrise on a beautiful crisp morning. That's the one I got the lovely photos from inside the passage. Wednesday, the sunrise was spectacular. That's the day the huge crowds are there, the 21st. But soon after it rose, it got covered by clouds. So the people in the chamber didn't quite get as good a show as they could have. Thursday was cloudy and Friday was very, very cloudy and raining. Myself and Tom King sat in the car waiting, actually. Yeah, lots of bugs going around here too, says Desiree. Mrs. Penny and her husband have been very sick, so I've had to do all the ranch work and play nurse for last week. How happy they are finally starting to get better. Well, best wishes to them, and hope they get well soon. Been a lot of work taking care of 20 animals and two other people on the ranch while juggling work, I can imagine. Wow. Yeah. Bealtaine was, when I was there at Newgrange, allowed in 2019. Yeah, well, it's back open, as it were. I don't think the numbers are the same as they were before the pandemic, the numbers of visitors and the numbers that they're letting in. What else then? Bealtaine, I'm trying to think after Bealtaine, what did we have? Well, we had Midsummer, of course. Just the year really did fly around. It's 2 significant things personally for me. Well, there are several. Hang on, I'm just thought of one more. Two major highlights for me was in the spring, in April mostly, and into May, we had the creation of the Drogheda Urban Arts Trail, which involved the creation of 6 giant murals. Now, the first of those had been painted late last year in September, I think, of 2021 by Ciarán Dunleavy, who's a local mural artist, to be followed up by 5 more murals featuring 6 figures from local mythology: Finn and the Salmon of Knowledge, the Dagda, Amergin, Morrigan, Bowen, and Etain. Now, I can tell you here today, there are plans for 2 more murals, so keep the fingers crossed that they'll happen maybe in the spring. So that was fantastic, and that began the process of, for people in Drogheda, reclaiming our mythology. In other words, mythology that is intensely local, a mythology that is to do with the monuments and landscape of the immediate area. Some of these myths, like the story of Amergin and the Song of Amergin, the wooing of Etain, the Salmon of Knowledge, are known not just all over Ireland, but in fact all over the world. And we had never really claimed them, we'd never really sort of said, these are sort of local myths. So that was one way of doing it. Later in the year, then, we had the Lou Festival of Light, and ArchDB has shared his link, and I'm going to reshare that so that people not on Facebook can see it as well, if you want to have a look at that. Janet Moran is in the house, or in the library, should I say. Janet, you're very welcome to the live stream. Happy New Year to you. Simon Tusafar is saying hello from Cork. How's all down in Cork? Simon, I'm in love with Cork. I'm just saying that. You're probably going to see me back down there before too long. Hopefully I won't break down on my way this time. But very good things came to that. Jay Brown is in the house. Hello and season's greetings. Very many happy returns to you. Whoa, that's amazing. Delighted it's in some way open, which is Anya. Yes, indeed. And then, yeah, as I say, we had the Lou Festival of Light. Now, I know you've seen it already, but I am going to replay a little bit of that. just in case you hadn't seen it. Lou Festival of Light is a 3-year festival which is happening in Drogheda at Samhain at Halloween time. And again, the theme was based around mythology, and it was amazing. And I'm saying that as somebody who's involved in it. I scripted the narration, and I spoke the narration along with Grania Rafferty. It was a huge event. It was on for 8 nights was the schedule, but one night was very heavy rain and flooding, so they called it off. But over 7 nights, it's something like 80 or 90,000 visitors. And on the last night, it was just spectacular. It was like Fleadh Cheoil na hÉireann was back in Drogheda again. It was amazing. And I'll play you a couple of minutes of what I thought was the most spectacular of the 3 displays, and they're hoping to widen it out next October, November when it comes back. But I, of course, will. The intention would be to keep you up to date with all of that as it progresses. It seems like a long way away now, but you know, as we said earlier, time flies. This is the display. I'll just play a couple of minutes of this. You may recognize the voice. This is the display on St. Peter's Church in Drogheda during the Lou Festival of Light.
Finnegas had been waiting by the bank of the River Boyne for 7 years for the salmon of knowledge. It had been prophesied that he would eat this famous salmon, and that nothing would remain unknown to him afterwards. He caught the great fish, but just as he did so, a young boy called Jevne came along. The druid instructed the boy to cook the fish, but warned him not to eat any of it. The boy did as he was told, but as he cooked the salmon, a blister rose up on its skin. He pushed it down with his thumb, but burnt himself as he did so. He immediately put his thumb in his mouth to relieve the pain, thereby gaining all the mystical wisdom that was due to Finnegas. Finnegas knew that his chance had passed, and gave the boy a new name, Finn. Not just because he had fair hair, but in recognition of the wisdom, Finn, that the boy was now endowed with. I am a builder. I am a smith. I am a champion.
and so on and so forth. Just in case you're wondering, the videos of those 3 displays are all available on YouTube. I will copy the links in as comments there so you can see them. I know that some of you will have seen that before, but just for those who haven't, it was absolutely, it was an amazing show. It was such an immense honor and a pleasure and a privilege to be involved in it. To, as I say, to help bring the myths back home here to the heart of the Boyne Valley in Drogheda. I've been doing that with live streams for a while, and it's just lovely, isn't it, to be able to do it in such a spectacular way. Lexi Erickson is in the house. A very happy in between days to you. A happy solstice / Christmas / New Year season. Tom Lawler is also here. Hello, Tom. Good evening to you. Simon Tusfar, that looks like an amazing audiovisual experience. Wow, yeah. And the crowd behind it, Visual Spectrum, they're fabulous. Brilliant to work with. Spike Willow says that looks stunning. And to actually see it live, and to be there and to hear it and to see it and to be immersed in it was fabulous. Conleth Berry is saying hello from Boston, Massachusetts. Anthony, I got one of your books for Christmas from my daughter. It's a great read. Brilliant stuff. I hope you enjoy it. Liam Smith is asking a question. Oh, yes. Apparently that stone circle there's some thought that may have been created by Lord Clermont in Ravensdale. The jury is out because there aren't many stone circles up this neck of the woods. Neck of the woods, see what I did there? Never mind. But I can't be sure. Perhaps an archaeologist might give you a more definitive opinion. Sue Prenter is in the house. Many happy returns, Sue. Hope you had a good Christmas. I hope you had plenty of nice food and drink, and hope Santa was good and all that. Paul Campbell is negative for COVID. Yay! That's good news, Paul. I hope you're keeping well. So Lou Festival of Light was just spectacular, and the murals. Anyway, there'll be more of that. But a great honor and a great privilege to be involved. Just to rewind to the solstice, which is only just last week. There was some disappointment that the live stream, the solstice live stream, wasn't happening this year. Now that was for a very practical reason. The whole reason the live stream was able to take place in 2020 and 2021 was because Newgrange Sheedenbroga was closed to public access. Nobody was allowed in there, and they were able to install cameras and later install equipment to measure the sun and to keep track of it each day, which is how they came to find out that it goes in there for 18 days before and after solstice. It was lovely to be back at the monument proper. I know I visited one of the days last year, but it wasn't the same, and there was no sunshine last year. It was very dull. Maybe that was an omen for what was to come in February with the war, and then the prices going up and inflation and all that stuff that we try to shut out of our minds when we're on the live streams, because we wanted to try to give people something positive to hold on to, because life can be quite terrifying, really. Now, Simon, I haven't been to Drombeg on the solstices. I've been there a few times, but I'd love to go there for summer solstice, actually. I think that's the better alignment, isn't it? Miriam Eckhart is in the house. I enjoyed your Standing Stones live stream. Do you know what? It was lovely, and we'll talk about that as well. It was lovely to be back at Baltray after a number of years of absence. I tend to forget. It's terrible. I've been at Newgrange so much, I forget to go to Baltray, which is beautiful. So, as I say, it didn't go on the Monday to Newgrange. Tuesday was the day to be there. Tuesday was just stunning, gorgeous, beautiful, clear morning. Sometimes when the sky is clear, there can be fog, you see. Or the whole sky can be clear except for that little strip along the horizon, and the sun maybe fails to shine into Newgrange. But Tuesday, the 20th, which is Tuesday of last week, was beautiful. As I say, certainly the best sunrise I've seen there since, I think, 2016. Wednesday, the crowd arrived. There are lots of opinions about that. Lots and lots and lots. Everybody has their opinion as to what, the people who come and sing and dance and wear costumes and beat drums and play horns. And, I think it's just part of the modern day pageantry of Newgrange. I don't take it too seriously. Some of the people involved in that have this mistaken notion that their celebrations of the solstice at Newgrange go back into antiquity, which is nonsense. As I say, 1967, Professor O'Kelly was there on his own, first human being to witness the sun shining into Newgrange since probably the Bronze Age. Nobody around at winter solstice in the 1950s and the 60s. In fact, probably nobody for centuries, because it wasn't a done thing. But anyway, there was one, if I can find it, there was one, let me see if I can find it first. There was one sort of very up. Yes, here it is. And I'm just going to read it. And come here, take what you want from it. There's a gentleman called Kevin Nolan who commented on a photograph that I shared on the 21st of the crowd at Newgrange. Now, I will say one thing personally. As I say, I just see it as part of the 21st. A lot of the people who turn up on the 21st are not to be seen at Newgrange any other day of the year. I think that tells you enough. However, a lot of the people who turn up on the 21st are very genuinely interested in Newgrange. You meet all sorts. You meet, the pagans and the drum players and the musicians and the singers and the dancers. You meet archaeologists and academics. You meet professional people. You meet retirees. You meet children. All sorts. I'm going to read this. It didn't provoke quite as big a debate as it could have. Anyway, this is just one opinion about the pageantry of the solstice day at Newgrange. This is from Kevin Nolan. Newgrange is a testament to human science and engineering. It's among the oldest astronomical sites on the planet. But on the 6-1 News, that's the main RTE news, this was portrayed as a site of bogus science. Druids, he has that in quote, and pagans saying they could, quote unquote, feel the energy, unquote. So Kevin is very much coming at this from one particular point of view. I don't agree with this, by the way. I agree with some of it, but this is his opinion, not mine. What energy was that? One woman there actually said, and I quote, "Your DNA is renewed on this site." Really? Something about Newgrange affects the DNA molecule? That's new. And by the way, this was constructed 3,000 years before there were Druids. They have nothing whatsoever to do with the culture of Newgrange. I would take issue on that. We have no definitive proof that there were Druids in the Neolithic, but we have to imagine that there was a priestly class. We have to. It's a structured society, absolutely. To say that there was no such thing as a Druid in the Neolithic, I think that's a little bit dismissive. However, do we have any proof that there were? Of course we don't. I attended Newgrange every year for 20 years, up to the 1990s. And there were no New Agers at all during that time. So there is no culture here beyond blow-ins, pseudo and bogus science cults that have arisen in the social media age from all over the British Isles, totally destroying what has been for decades a day for ordinary Irish people to celebrate, without pagans banging drums and recounting made-up chants that mean absolutely nothing culturally. Again, I would take issue with the idea that their presence totally destroys the celebration. It depends on what way you look at it. I was there with my wife and daughter, one of my daughters and one of my sons. And, we don't necessarily get involved in the singing and the dancing, but, as I say, you see it as just part of, it's one day a year. And the last paragraph, and no moderation of this behaviour on the day by the Office of Public Works / Newgrange employees or experts on site. It's a disgrace how Newgrange has been let take over like this, now on an annual basis, a theft of what should be a celebration for all Irish people, taken over by fake cults who similarly descend on Stonehenge annually. Wow, tell us how you really feel, Kevin, huh? But each to their own. That's the way I look at it. Each to their own. I think maybe that opinion is too grounded in what we might call empiricism and science and fact and all the rest. The fact remains, as I said on the interview that I did on LMFM on the solstice, which I must actually post online, which I haven't done for those of you who haven't heard it, I did say that there is an undoubted religious, spiritual aspect about Newgrange. There was for the builders, there continues to be. You know, if you're the sort of person who, for whom everything is sort of, you know, factual and empirical, then nothing's ever going to have that sort of deeper meaning. However, I have locked horns in recent times with a few members. They're not members of anything, but with a few people who've expressed opinions about, you know, this idea that, you know, what they do honoring the ancestors stretches back into prehistory. It does, but not, and not in a way that they're continuing to practice now. Or I think there is a disconnect. You know, it's like we've taken all the old traditions and we've kind of gone, right, what shall we do to celebrate the solstice? Let's go to Newgrange and bang a drum and sing songs. You know. And yes, well, Miriam says he's obviously bigoted against. Well, you can see that it's a very one-sided view, you know. Desiree says, I think it's important that people are embracing the site and celebrating it for the remarkable place that it is. And Simon says, sounds like a narrow-minded man. But look, as I said, everybody's entitled to their opinion, whether we want to listen to an opinion or not. The one thing I would agree with in what he says is this notion that this type of celebration has been going on for generations and centuries is nonsense. It really is, folks. It's nonsense. The late Mrs. Hickey, who was the caretaker at Newgrange for 60 years before the excavations began. So from around the end of the 1800s to the early 1960s, that sort of time period, while she would have told you about all the visitors there were, she probably had zero stories to tell about people coming in costumes and banging drums and singing. However, the fact that those people are sort of reawakening older, not traditions, but the fact that I think it is significant culturally. I think it's very significant. I've written about this in my Newgrange book, which is out of print, and I need to rewrite. I did write that I felt that, you know, there is an increasing interest in ancient sites in Ireland. That's not altogether all healthy. There is definitely an aspect of white supremacism. Once you start talking about the people who built Newgrange being darker skinned than us, wow, boy, does that bring out the haters. But I do think that there's something significant about the fact that, you know, a lot of people have sort of, as it were, flocked away from the traditional church. And a lot of people seem to be going to visit these sites, which didn't have much interest 50 and 60 and 100 years ago. It'll tell a story in its own time, you know. But it's interesting. Kathy Maydeo is going back to work. I'm sorry that you're in the salt mine, Kathy May. Hopefully it won't be too bad an afternoon for you. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. I was very lucky to benefit from some, shall we say, unhindered time in the chamber last week, in the chamber of Newgrange, where I was able to capture some very special photographs. Now, I'm not sharing these publicly for the moment for various reasons. They are available to view as a patrons. So if you're interested, you know, that scrolling thing down the bottom, I'm always saying it, that if you become a patron of Mythical Ireland, you get access to various bits and pieces, exclusive photos, videos, blog posts, audio recordings, merchandise, and more. That's patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. So this photo up here was one that I took in, I think that might have been 2018, might have been 2019. That was one of those very special times, but I had more special time in the chamber, I'm glad to say, and a very special thanks to the staff, the OPW guides out there, for everything that they do. They have an awful lot to deal with on solstice week, and we're forgetting that the solstice week is their busiest time of year, and it's coming up to Christmas. And I'm sure by the time they finish and clock off on the 23rd, which is the last day Newgrange is open before Christmas, they're only exhausted from their efforts. So thanks to all of them for that. Anyway, great to be back at Newgrange, but also great to be back at Baltray. I think I copied the link to the live stream. I did 2 live streams, one before the sunrise and one after the sunrise. Really nice to be back there, because we're forgetting, and it's easy to forget, Baltray was the first discovery that myself and Richard Moore made back in 1999. My God, that's 23 years ago. I can't believe it. In fact, Richard and I met in January of 99. So next month, we will have known each other 24 years. But Baltray is significant because I think, and I can't prove this, I think that Baltray is a Neolithic site, Neolithic standing stones, not Bronze Age. I think it was used, as I said in the live stream, as a marker for the journeys, the stone journeys, as they were bringing the stones up and down the coast from Clogherhead to Newgrange. I'm going to share that link again just in case you didn't see it earlier. That's the link to the Baltray live stream, which was recorded and uploaded to YouTube. Miriam says, I visited Baltray. When I visited, it was wonderful. I had a lovely conversation with a random man there. It's a funny thing about Irish sacred sites and prehistoric sites. You meet all sorts of random people, and sometimes you meet very interesting people who turn out not to be random at all. The Newgrange photos are gorgeous, says Lexi. I'm glad you enjoyed them. I'm just delighted to be able to have the time to do that. One of the other things that 2022 allowed, so obviously during the early stage of the pandemic, I began this live stream called Live Irish Myths with no intentions other than just to distract myself, because, you know, although I was still working from home, we were all a little bit, I think we were all a little bit fraught. We were all a little bit anxious, concerned about what was going to happen in the world. Everything was shut down, and it was the weirdest time. The not knowing, of course, being a big part of the problem. Now, thankfully, a lot of us survived and thrived, some of us. Not everybody did, so we do remember those who didn't. But one of the things that we did was these conversation episodes. My first guest on the conversation episodes, you may remember, was Eddie Lenihan. That was this time last year. I'm going to paste the link in there. Am I? Yeah. And then we had in episode 2 Moncon McGann with Jim Fitzpatrick. We had Professor J.P. Mallory, Dolores Whelan, Mairead Carew, who's the author of Tara and the Ark of the Covenant, which is a very interesting, well, they're all interesting discussions. We had Patrick McCafferty, whose topic was comets in Irish mythology. We had Bob Quinn, the Atlantean Irish, which was brilliant. With John Creedon, his new book at the time, which was That Place We Call Home. He's another book out now, which is an Irish folklore treasury. Episode 9 of the conversation series was Geraldine Stout. Episode 10 were the prehistory guys. Episode 11 was Mike Bailey. The subject there was dendrochronology, dating Irish sites through tree rings. Yes, I'll get the word out eventually. So one of the things this year is that I've been able to get the cameras out and about to go and actually visit people. Now, I know, and I'm sorry about this, but look, it's just the way it makes sense. if you understand where Mythical Ireland is right now versus where I want it to be next year, I think most of you know that I still work full time separately to Mythical Ireland, and it can be quite a challenge to maintain, to do everything, to work full time, to maintain the live streams and the patron content and update the website and the blog, to sign and post out books and calendars, to run tours, to do talks, etc., etc. It's very, very busy. But one of the ways I'm trying to make it happen for Mythical Ireland is through the patronage. And so that support is very, very important. In, I think it was August, maybe September, myself and Grant Wakefield, Grant, I had worked with Grant in the years 2009 and 2010 on a project called Ancient Skies, which was a film he was making, which was a fabulous film. He also made a film called Remnants, and a lot of time-lapse footage, 360-degree time-lapse footage of various Stone Age and ancient sites in Ireland and Britain. It was quite amazing, the work that he did. Anyway, we teamed up again, and Grant helped me with camera and editing on sort of new conversations, as it were. One with Michael Quirk, the wood carver in Sligo, and what a joy to spend time in that man's company. And just to give you a little taster, I will paste a link in. The entire interview is, I think, is about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours long. That is available to patrons at the Bronze Age level and above on Patreon. Joe O'Keefe is pointing out that there's a new film called The Banshees of Inisherin. I haven't watched it yet. I haven't seen it yet either. I've seen a lot of commentary about it. So looking forward to seeing it, hopefully in the near future. John Main says, yeah, everyone should celebrate as they see fit, but with dignity and respect for our ancestors and fellow celebrants. Yes, indeed. All of us Colorado viewers are deep in snow today, and all of us with Huskies cannot get them inside. They're having too much fun in the snow. Apparently, I'm a real workhorse. Oh, Liam, you wouldn't believe it. I do suffer sometimes from total exhaustion and just, I do just sort of completely disappear off the radar for a couple of days because it just all catches up. Karen Faye O'Loughlin is in Colorado, in snowy Boulder, had a foot last night. My God. It's really happening for some of you guys in the States. Super Enter, the Newgrange photos allowed me to remember the great feelings I had on my first visit to Newgrange in 1996. Wow, brilliant stuff. Yeah, so I did share the little short clip of Michael Quirk. Michael Quirk is a brilliant man because when he's very self-deprecating, he's very modest. He has a great sense of humor. He's a great raconteur. He's a great storyteller. But principally, and one thing that people, I think, who spend time with him really realize is how very well read he is. He's intimately knowledgeable of not just Irish mythology, but classical mythology and others. As familiar with many of the poets, the great poets, as he is with the stories. And the way he's able to thread them together is just marvelous. Such a wonderful man to spend time in the company of. He's in his early 80s. And I've seen a few clips on YouTube that were recorded in his shop in the 1980s. And the only difference is he looks older now. It's exactly the same humor, exactly the same tempo. He's able to just, he's quite extraordinary. What a character, carving in wood Irish mythological characters and scenes and landscapes from Sligo, etc. And, W.B. Yeats and all the rest. I'm really looking forward actually to going back to Sligo and to spend time in his company without the cameras rolling, because the cameras are rolling. You're always under time pressure. You're trying to record as much as possible. You're trying to get the best. I think we did get the best. But as I say, that film is available for patrons. The other one, so yes, my family in particular have been very patient with my endeavors over the last number of years. Um, it's really interesting, but they've grown up with it because I met Richard in 1999, and we had Amy in 2000. So right from the beginning, it was there. So they've kind of grown up with it, but sometimes, when you're away doing interviews, or you're away down the country taking photographs or whatever, and they don't see you because you've been working, and then you've been Mythical Irelanding, and then you've been working, and you've been Mythical Irelanding, and you've been doing more Mythical Ireland, But anyway, yes, they do owe. I do owe them a debt of gratitude, and it's very nice of you to remind me so, Sue, and for us to give them a mention. I've shown this one before, but I am planning to do a further series of these one-on-one conversations. They're not really interviews, because I don't like the idea of an interview where there's formal questions and expectations of answers. I just love to sit down with interesting people. Another very interesting man was Michael Slavin. Michael is the author of the Book of Tara, the Ancient Books of Ireland, several other smaller publications, a former equestrian journalist, and most importantly for many of us, the proprietor of the old bookshop on the Hill of Tara, where I have acquired many treasures over the years. Michael is a huge store of knowledge, an immense intellect, a very interesting man, a very humble man, and great to have a conversation with. And I know I played this before, and I'm going to play it again. Some of you will not have seen it, and this is what I believe to be the absolute highlight. If you said to me, 2022, Anthony, what was the most magical thing that you captured on camera during 2022? I would say it is this couple of minutes in which I managed to get Michael Slavin to talk to me about his religious and spiritual beliefs. So have a listen to this. Say no more, Anthony, say no more. If you don't mind me asking, what's your own personal spirituality, your own, what do you think waits, if anything, beyond this life? Or
I would find nothing, so that every moment of living is utterly precious. Every moment is an eternity. Every moment of love is a gem. Every person that you can perhaps help make a little happier is salvation. That the world, the universe, is an extraordinary mystery to which we can apply everything we applied to the unknown God. We can apply it to the universe because it is everything that we used to say about God: everlasting, all-powerful, all-giving, all of those things. I wouldn't preach to anybody because they have to find their own accommodation to the reality of their life. Sometimes they find it in a book, sometimes they find it in a person that they meet, sometimes they find it in a group, in a relationship, whatever. But I know that humans feel vulnerable, and they're always seeking for something that helps them beyond what they can do for themselves or some other human being can do for them. So they reach out to Allah, or they reach out to God, they reach out to Jesus, they reach out to Buddha, they reach out to whatever it is that is beyond what this world offers them. And I am not one to say to anybody whether there is or there isn't. I only know what my mind will accept, and that's it.
Powerful stuff. And we knew the cameras were rolling, 3 cameras, and we knew as he was speaking. I was sitting there and Grant was over at the other camera, and you just have this sense, you're just sitting there going, like when he said I would find nothing at the beginning, I was like, oh dear, don't know where this is going to go. Sounds like he's a total atheist, and then to sit mesmerized listening to that wisdom. I think there's a message there, which is we should listen to our elders. Grania Vale, you're very welcome. And the intention and the hope is to continue to do that and more. Desiree says, whoa, I got chills. Michelle says that was amazingly powerful. It was, and it was amazingly powerful to witness it and to be there as he said it. Lexi loves it. Powerful words. So wonderful to have heard these words, to be captured forever. Thank you so much. Yeah. And also to remember that, I said to Michael, I said, you look very fresh for a man who's, I think he's 91. And he said, yeah, that's great. Tell that to me knees and me joints. As both of the Michaels actually very, I think, very humble people at the bottom of it all, Anyway, I can't say too much, but just keep what you've just seen in your mind. That may travel further. That's all I can say for now. One of the things that happened in 2022 that at the time seemed like an immense challenge and a difficulty and a real pain in the backside, to be honest, turned out to have an immense silver lining, and maybe is the beginning of something wonderful. At Halloween, for the first time since we've been married, actually, myself and my wife and a couple of the kids decided to go on a bit of a break. We're down to that lovely county of Cork, Simon, too so far, and we booked a house, and we were just going to spend 5 days down there, just relax and detach a little bit from, the chaos of life. It's very busy between everything, and on the bank holiday Monday, the 31st of October, the car on the way down to Cork didn't quite break down, but basically let us know it didn't really want to go much further. And we waited in a car park in the service station at Cashel on the M8, which is a town, the Rock of Cashel, a town in Tipperary, on the way down to Cork. And the AA man eventually came and had a look at the car and basically said, I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't think you should drive it. So we took a decision to bunk down in a hotel in Cashel. And the car had to be towed and we had to transfer everything. And just became... Look, we will look back on it as an interesting experience. But as I say, the challenge of it turned out to have the most beautiful silver lining. The holiday ended up costing a lot more because we had to book a hotel, because we had to rent a car, because we had to get the other car towed to a garage, because we had to pay for repairs and all the rest. And that's when our good friend Tom King on Goa stepped in and organised a fundraiser called Let's Get Anthony Home. Uh, and I think, I'm not sure, Tom, if the original target was 500 quid, and it, that was quickly exceeded, and then the target was increased, and that was exceeded again, and the target was increased again to 1,000, and that was met. But I took a decision that, I couldn't in all conscience take that money, because I just felt that the community, uh, you know, between the community that watches the live streams, the community that follows, YouTube and the social media, the community that interacts with the website, the community who buys calendars and books and all sorts of stuff, the community that comes on my tours, and all of that had given me enough, that I really couldn't take more. It didn't feel right. So I took the decision that we were going to donate it to charity, which we did. We initially donated two checks of €500 each to the Drogheda Dolls and the Drogheda Homeless Aid. In the interim, we raised a further sum. I think it was up to 1,300 and something. And the excess has also been split evenly between those two charities. I'm just sharing a link there to the blog post where you can see the handover of those checks. But one of the upshots, so just to let you know, Drogheda Homeless Aid has been providing a homeless shelter in the Drogheda area for the past probably 3 decades, maybe more. They also help. They're not just about getting people off the streets when it's cold and wet and giving them somewhere to sleep. They also help to rehome people, which is very important. They help people who have had challenging circumstances to actually find their feet again, and put them into accommodation other than the hostel itself. They do very important work. The Drogheda Dolls do incredible work. Their fundraiser is benefiting 4 charities in total, which are the palliative care Louth. And if you know anything about palliative care, you'll know the immense work that they do, the miracle workers, the saints that they are. So Sad, which is Save Our Sons and Daughters, which is a suicide awareness charity founded in Drogheda, the Drogheda Animal Rescue Centre, and the St Nicholas GFC Ladies Building Appeal. So there are actually 5 charities who benefited from that. Anyway, one of the upshots of all of this is that I have made a decision that this is going to be an annual fundraiser. So sometime early enough in 2023, we will set up a new GoFundMe, and we're going to call it probably something like the Mythical Ireland Community fundraiser. Myself and Tom will nominate some local charities here in the Boyne Valley, perhaps charities that are close to our hearts. And let's put a much bigger total on it this time. Let's try and build it up as the year goes on. Mention it as often as possible. Get, 1,000 or 1,300 euros, which is brilliant. Don't get me wrong, but I think that we could do a lot more, and I'm sure you all agree with that. I think we could do an awful lot more. At last count, on the various social media channels, which is the Mythical Ireland Facebook page, the Mythical Ireland Community, the Mythical Ireland Creatives, they're all on Facebook. Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Mythical Ireland actually has a total following of over 130,000. Now, some of those are obviously followers who follow several things at once. But I don't see why we couldn't put 5,000 euros as the target for 2023. In fact, I'm thinking that 10 grand is easily achievable, and maybe we should be putting it up higher. I don't know. I'll take your own views on that. But I actually do believe in coincidence, in a way. People say, I know I've often said I don't believe in coincidence, but I do believe that sometimes things happen for a reason. And while something that happens at the moment, it happens, and for the couple of days afterwards, you feel that it's very challenging, and you tend to say, oh, poor me, look at what's happened. My car broke down and I couldn't get it fixed, and my holiday, These are first world complaints. And now I'm seeing the miracle that came of it, and what that could potentially lead to. So expect sometime early enough in the new year, expect a whole new fundraising effort to begin. Let's help those who look. For a lot of us, the challenges are, it's snowing outside, or it's raining, or it's icy. The challenges are, you know, maybe you have a virus, or you have COVID or something. Or on the scale of things, a lot of things that we complain about are very, very, very minor. What about the people out there who have no home to go to, have nowhere to sleep tonight? What about the people who don't know where their next meal is coming from? What about people who've been affected by suicide? In some families, more than one. Yeah, I just think it's extraordinary what some of these charities are doing. And so that's what we're going to do. Liam Smith agrees. Yeah, I think 10 grand is doable. Yes, I'm with you, Liam. I am with you. And you have to set it. And I even think maybe, higher again, but definitely not lower. You know. Yeah, exactly. During the year, most of us could monthly donate a wee sum. Yeah, look, whatever. At the end of the day, I completely understand. I've always said, in relation to, an awful lot of what I do is, as it were, free. I do a lot of stuff that's just generally available. And then there's stuff that I charge for because I want to make it viable. I want to make it sustainable. I want it to, I want it to be a vocation. Follow your heart. It's not led you astray yet, says Anya. I'm glad you think so. Yeah, so I think that's one of the, definitely for me, one of the big moments of personal satisfaction in 2023. I mean, there's a few of them, sitting listening to the Michaels as we're doing our conversations, listening to those magic words from Michael Slavin, standing in front of St. Peter's Church, watching this awesome light display. Yes, handing over those checks. Wow. There's just something about that. It's very special, And exactly, Mariana, we've been so happy that we've been able to make a small difference in others' lives through our donations. So, as I say, expect that early enough. In other words, I'm not leaving until the winter time next year. If we set it up early in the year, it can build momentum, and it can keep building during the year and get mentioned often. Another of the big highlights of 2023 was the website. You may remember, some of you who've been following Mythical Ireland for a while will remember the old website, the old website, the one that existed up until the autumn of 2017, which had no longer sort of, it wasn't viewable properly on smartphones. It didn't resize. And it was the old one with the black background. I don't know if you remember that. But that gave way to a new version of Mythical Ireland. But sadly, the person involved in coding that had to, of course, sort of go away from all that web design stuff, which meant he was no longer going to be able to do anything for me. So we had to make a quick decision. And the decision was made that the website was going to transfer over to the Shopify platform. And it was fairly seamless. It still, by and large, looks very like the old website. It has more features from my point of view. It has more things that make it easier to use. And when that launched on the last day of September, the 30th of September, and of course that's mythicalireland.com. And don't forget that that's where you can, if you were so inclined, you could buy a calendar or some books or some hand forged artworks. One of the, I think, one of the really nice aspects of that is the layout of the blog, which is the part of the website that actually gets updated the most, and the way it displays the photography in particular. So get yourself over there if you haven't done already. Explore the Mythical Ireland website. John Main is heading off. A very good day to you, John. We'll see you in the new year, hopefully. Hope it's a good one. Yes, so that was a fairly and it actually, it seemed like, again, a situation that seemed a little bit at the time like a crisis. I'm going to have to move away from these websites, and you're going to have to get it moved somewhere else. And we found a person to do that, and he was brilliant. And it turns out he had time available, and it was all turned around in about 2 weeks. Now I've had to do a little bit of work on it since, particularly on the blog. But I believe the blog now has more. See, I kept a blog on a Blogspot site for a long time, and some of that stuff wasn't on the main website, believe it or not. So most of it is all there now. Most of it, 90% of it is there. So the blog in particular, as I say, there's lots and lots of stuff to explore. That was another great. Another one was the initiation of the public tours. So as you know, I've been available for private hire as a tour guide for several years. Well, I decided to use a feature of the website to promote a public tour where I would announce a date and a time and basically sell tickets through the website. We had our first tour at Douth, which I think was in October. It might have been November. Yeah, it was in October. And that was booked out. There were 50 tickets sold for that. A lot of people said a lot of very nice things. Sandra Boothroyd is off now. And all the best to you all for the new year. Many happy returns, Sandra. I hope it's a great one. We'll see you in 2023. Hopefully next Monday for the return of, we were reading from Fraser's Golden Bough. So more of that next week. And then in November, we had, or I led tours of Fornox, and I had to split that because there was no way that all the cars were going to be able to park at Fornox. So there were 3 tours. Again, that was a sellout. So they will be returning, and they'll actually be returning. The reason I haven't had one in December, and probably won't have one in January, is just because it's winter and because the weather is very unreliable. But I have chosen about 8 different venues, and I'm hoping what to do is have one tour this month here, have one here, have one here next month, have one here next month, and then rotate them again. So we will be back to Douth and Fornox at some point, probably later in the year. Laurie Fogarty's in the house, and another one from snowy Colorado. Just saw you're online. Yes, a lot of Coloradoans in the library tonight. Well, they probably wish they were in this nice, cozy, warm library. It's actually raining outside here. But I believe that the snow has been quite bad in a lot of parts of the States. So the monthly public tours will be returning, all going well. I will, of course, be advertising them on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and on the website before too long. So I'll probably resume those in February, I think, when there's hopefully, fingers crossed, no guarantees in Ireland, a bit of an improvement in the weather. In relation to writing, regrettably, I didn't get a lot of writing done this year, and that's a big issue for me, to be honest. And it's a disappointment. It's also a challenge. It's also saying to me, well, how are we going to change that in 2023? I want to continue publishing a monograph series. I have the next one set up and ready to go in terms of ready to write. There's a very major work that I want to do, which may end up being my most significant or my most comprehensive work to date, even though Island of the Setting Sun and Mythical Ireland are big works. This might be even bigger again in terms of its size and scope and scale. I just have to figure out how I'm going to do that. But I am aware of the fact that between one thing and another, an awful lot has happened in 2022 and an awful lot to celebrate, as you've seen. But the one thing is I haven't been doing as much writing, and I really, really feel the need to clear space and time to write. The Segish Companion, which I was writing and sharing for patrons, I believe at last count it was something I had something like 85,000 words written. it seems like an awful disappointment to write 85,000 words of a book and then to stop. It's not that I've stopped, it's just I haven't. Actually, 92,000 is where it's at right now. So I hope to get back to that before too long. The major project that I'm talking about may take a couple of years to get completed, because there's research involved as well. I will talk more about that when I have more to talk about. But I think that the biggest single change that needs to happen in 2023 is to create that room and that time and that space for the writing. And at the same time, to continue to update the blog and the website, the social media, to continue to take photographs, to continue to make films and videos, to continue to do live streams and all of the other things that happen. But as I say, the one thing that hasn't really been happening this year is the writing. So that has to come back. I published 4 books last year. Now, 2 of those were monographs, but it doesn't matter about the size. It's just the time and the ability to do that, Denver looks like Narnia, says Lexi. I can only imagine. Sure hope we can get you to the States, maybe Colorado next year. Well, you definitely have a following here. It seems there's a big following in Colorado, all right. And yes, absolutely, I would be only too delighted to bring the Mythical Ireland show on tour, as it were. And one more sort of hope / ambition / objective is to do some more TV work. As you know, I've been involved in various TV productions and programs over the years, but I really feel the story as it has been told through my books and my website and some of my videos, etc., is a very compelling story that would make a smashing TV series. It really would. So keep the fingers crossed on that one. Let's just say some seeds have been sown, and we're hoping that they will sprout in 2023 and create some green shoots and maybe some colourful flowers. Yeah, good question, Desiree. I don't know is the answer. Balance, says Michelle. Yeah, I know all about it. Balance is what's needed. Yes, indeed. Have I mentioned everything? Don't forget that there have been some interesting, well, I think there are anyway, interesting posts on the blog lately. There was one published over Solstice Week about the Douth Henge, which there had been some skepticism about from our archaeologists about whether it was aligned on the solstices or not. They seem to be coming around to the idea that it was. Some information there from surveys carried out by Steve Davis of UCD. Another interesting one was the recreation virtually in 3D of Site Z at Newgrange, which is actually the satellite mound or tomb closest to the Newgrange monument, which is largely destroyed. I'm sharing these links here in the chat so you can see them as comments. My friend Matthew Kelly created a reconstruction. The 4 satellite monuments either side of Newgrange have interesting orientations. They all point to the horizon between where the sun rises on winter solstice and where it sets. In other words, they don't point to anywhere that the sun can rise or set. So what are they for? Interesting idea that they're actually maybe for tracking the sun's course across the sky on the shortest day. And he says that it might actually have had a roof box, which is interesting. Shortly before solstice, we had cold conditions and a hoarfrost at Newgrange. And now there are some photographs there on that blog post that I'm just sharing there now. A video of same is available for patrons. So again, please do consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/Mythical Ireland, which is this address here that is scrolling along the bottom of the screen. Yes, indeed. I believe, yeah, and only just to say, that whatever it is that you're hoping for 2023, I hope that it comes true. I hope that there is love and hope and abundance and all of these things next year for you. That we shouldn't, hopefully, we won't end up get bogged down by, sometimes, as happens, all the bad news that goes on in the world. Sometimes you have to realize that the life that you're living, versus what is being portrayed in the news. They're two vastly different things most of the time. That you can tend to get downhearted by all of that. And there's just so much of it. We live in an age where media is 24/7 in all its various forms. And the one thing media seems to be very good at is telling us what's going to happen and telling us how bad it's going to be. Well, there's another view on that, which is that we are, to an extent, the creators of the life that we live. We can create for ourselves a space in which we do feel relatively safe and comfortable, and I believe that Mythical Ireland, especially during the pandemic, has been a great demonstration of that. That there's a nice, warm, compassionate resilience there, which says, yeah, we understand that bad things are happening in the world completely. We're not denying that that's the case, but we're going to do something nice to counteract all of the negativity around that. And I believe that you folks and I did that very well over the past 2.5 years or so. Long may it last, Long may it last. So Happy New Year. As I say, I'm highly unlikely to be live streaming on the 31st. We tend to have a nice family celebration to ring in the new year. Let's hope it's a good one. I hope that you all have set at least some intentions, resolutions, we used to call those, for 2023, hopes. And if those hopes and wishes are for others as much as they are for yourself, well and good. Even better again. Let's try and make the world a better place. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to say goodnight here from the Boyne Valley, where the rain is coming down. You may have seen earlier I shared a photograph of the moon and Jupiter. And actually, by the time I had seen it and gotten home and taken the camera out, it began to look sort of hazy. And I said, oh, I wonder is there rain on the way? And then I checked the Met Éireann website, and sure enough, there was rainfall coming. And sure enough, it has now arrived. So that view of moon and Jupiter that we got earlier on is now obscured. But maybe some of you in the States and Canada and South America will see that later on when it gets dark where you are, which is not too far into the future, actually. If you're on the East Coast especially, it should be just around that time now when the sun is setting or shortly after it. Thank you, everybody, for viewing during 2022. Thank you for all your support of Mythical Ireland activities. Thank you for coming back time and time again. Thank you for sharing your opinions, your wisdom, your love. Please do keep doing so in 2023. Thank you, of course, for all your support in various forms, and not least, becoming a patron or buying some of my work. That's important. That helps me achieve the objectives, as I say, of putting Mythical Ireland on a more full-time, permanent footing and a sustainable footing. I hope you all ring in the new year in style. There may or may not be alcohol or parties or chocolates involved in that. Celebrate it in your own way, but let's certainly hope that 2023 is a good year for all in the various locations in which they are situated around the world, everywhere from New Zealand to South Africa to various parts of Europe, to Britain, to Ireland, to the USA, to Canada, to Central America, to South America, and all the places in between. Once again, I hope you all had a lovely Christmas and a Happy New Year to one and all from Mythical Ireland, from myself, and from all of us here in the Boyne Valley, which, as I've often told you, is the centre of the universe. But you know all that. Just making sure I'm not. A lot of people saying nice things. Thank you very much. And we'll see you in 2023. And yeah, let's continue to do as we have done, and more of it, you know. And long may it last, as they say. In the meantime, all that it remains for me to say is Igoa Kulasov. Slán go fóill. Bye for now. And most importantly of all, Tó go bugé. Take it easy.